welcome back to Mary Elizabeth Kaye Friday Hour.
Part 2.
Part 2.
The second part.
Yes.
And I'm Kaye Lazar. Thank you. Thank you. Sit down, everybody. No more applause. I always joke when I'm in a play that, usually my part, is not in the first scene. It's usually maybe, later in the play.
Oh.
And they said, and then when we were rehearsing it, or like a dress rehearsal, or, where we're a little looser, I always say, now, when I walk on, you're going to have to take a little pause. Why? To get you on stage at the right moment? He goes, no, there'll be so much applause from the audience that it's going to disrupt the play if we keep acting.
Yeah.
We have to take a little break so for everyone to sit down.
Yeah.
And then we could go on with the play. I've noticed that in New York, if there's a big stars in the play,
Yeah.
like as soon as he walks on stage, everyone claps. Danny DeVito, I saw in a play.
Yeah.
I saw Tony Shalhoub. You notice it when it begins, when they walk out, but they may not show up until maybe the third act or something.
Yeah.
Oh, he's there. I was the Wizard of Oz once, and I don't really show up until the end.
Yeah.
We're doing, I think, the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with Willy Wonka. You're in that show.
I'm going to be in it next month.
And I was in a version of it, and they talk about Willy Wonka throughout the whole first, almost half of the play, and then once Willy Wonka shows up, it becomes the Willy Wonka show.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, and if you notice, I have a thing on my nose. It's not a booger. It's a cut on my nose.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know where I got it from, but you know what happened, I think?
What?
We've had sunny days, and I think I got like a sunburn, a slight one, but enough that my nose started peeling. And then when you're peeling, you start picking at it.
Yeah.
And usually that stuff comes off pretty easily, but I think I peeled it, and boom, big chunk of skin came off. So I have to wait for it to heal. But it'll be all right. I have that redhead skin,
Oh, yeah.
freckles and pale skin,
Yeah.
dark eyes. I was born a redhead, and the very Irish skin, and but if I don't watch myself, I could be like W.C. Fields with the rosacea. That as they say in Ireland, a whiskey face. I don't want that. I don't even drink anymore. Anyway, hey, there was a really good show on last week. Billy Joel.
Yeah.
Billy Joel did a concert, and you like Billy Joel?
I do, yes.
Yeah, it was his 100th show at Madison Square Garden. He has a residency there. He does one every month, and they showed this one on CBS, and it was delayed because of a ball game or auto race or something. Have that effect on everybody.
I can't help it. I can't help it.
So,
I get tired easy.
Did you wake up early today? So excited?
Yeah.
Yeah, same here. Every day I wake up, I'm excited, but then it's, oh gosh, do I have to really go out and have a good time? Sometimes having a good time is hard.
Yeah.
Like when you're traveling, you have to wait. You wake up early and say, okay, I got to go see the Eiffel Tower. I got to go see the Golden Gate Bridge. I got to go see Disneyland. But then you get exhausted if you do. I found out I only do one big event a day. Yeah. Never see more than 2 museums in a day, because if you see a third museum in one day, your eyes just bug out. Anyway, so Billy Joel has done all these shows, and so they did one, and CBS. There's pretty much only 5 minutes left in the show, and they cut it off in the middle of his last song, which is pretty much his most popular song, Piano Man.
Yeah.
Give us the song, the Piano Man. And he and everyone complains, so they're rerunning it to assuage the Billy Joel fans. You don't really see him that much. I hadn't seen Billy Joel, what he looks like, in years. I saw him in the late 70s when he came to Richmond.
Yeah.
And I think he had the album The Stranger.
Oh, yeah.
He's had a lot of big hits
That's
since
a good
then.
album. I have that.
Yeah, they're all good, and I mean they're all good, but he only had like two or three major albums up to that point, and so he only sang those songs. But it was quite a show, and so I saw him then. But he looks totally different now, and he's famously he's had a lot of troubles in all his career with I think alcohol and drugs. But he seems to bounce back from them all. He also getting married many times. He also is a very terrible businessman. He has like signed his rights away early in his career to albums that he was making like in the early 2000s. He was still paying off his people that owned contracts. He had the joke. He's one of the few people in show business. You know, a lot of people in show business have a hard time with money and business and all, but he's one of the few that actually has no problem making the money. His problem is keeping the money or spending the money. He seems that's where it all goes haywire for him, girlfriends and everything. But Billy Joel, it was a great show, and they're going to rerun it. And I guess you can find bits of it on YouTube and stuff. He doesn't do albums anymore, he said. I said, I've written all the songs I want, but I like performing, so that's what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And Billy Joel, yeah, he was a big deal when I was growing up. Yeah. I mean, there's no one, how does anyone not like Billy Joel?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people feel the same way about Billy Joel. Anyway, so you were listening to the Bee Gees lately, you said?
Yeah.
Well, tell us about the Bee Gees.
They Saturday Night Live.
Fever.
Saturday Night Fever, I mean.
Yeah.
They seem to be taking. It took over the whole Saturday Night Fever album.
Well, yeah. Well, in fact, the Bee Gees were always sort of popular, and they had a lot of hits. But once Saturday Night Fever came, it just catapulted them into the superstardom. And they were so popular, they were like the Beatles to some extent. They even did a movie. The only time you really see them act in a movie is there in Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. There's no Beatles in that movie, but all the songs were sung by Peter Frampton and the Bee Gees, and then also other guest stars like I think Aerosmith is in there. And the closest thing to a Beatle in that movie is Billy Preston, who was on the Let It Be album. He sings "Get Back to Where You Once Belong," but none of the Beatles songs are in that, and none of the Beatles singing those songs are in the show.
They might as well call it the Bee Gees Night Live.
Bee Gees Night Fever.
Night Fever.
Well, they have a song called Night Fever. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Night Fever, Night Fever. Yeah. And
do it.
yeah.
I have that album actually.
You know, you listen. A lot of people don't like disco and put a lot of blame on the popularity of the Bee Gees, but the Bee Gees, that's a rather infectious album.
Yeah.
And you know, all the songs, even the songs they don't sing, are pretty much performed by the emotion and all those other songs.
Yeah.
If I Can't Have You by Yvonne Elliman. But there a lot of those songs about, the Bee Gees, one of the Bee Gees wrote Islands in the Stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean and then they had a younger brother who died very young, Andy Gibb.
Yeah.
And he was good.
Yeah.
Shadow Dancing. And then I think Barry is the last one?
Yeah.
Yeah. And but the Bee Gee. So go see the Bee Gee. I think he's in Las Vegas. I think, yeah. And he's singing all those hits. But the Bee Gees, to me, their greatest hits are really good. And you hear a few songs, Lonely Days, Lonely Nights, and songs like that.
Lonely days, lonely nights.
Yeah, it's like a fake Beatles type song.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's good though. And there's also the Bee Gees are. I've never seen the Bee Gees in person because they never came to my part of town.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of like disco people. Like
Yeah.
I've seen the Village People.
Village People, the Bee Gees.
And they stopped what they were saying because they stopped and they said, "Who's that? What the hell is that guy in the front row wearing?" That's what the Village. If the Village People point you out why you're wearing those crazy outfits, then you know you're doing something wrong or something right.
Yeah.
You also a big James Brown fan?
Yes.
Now tell me about James Brown.
He was an excellent dancer.
Oh, yeah.
And Michael Jackson got his moves from him when he started.
James Brown, yeah.
Yeah.
James Brown. Actually, I have to admit, growing up, I wasn't, James Brown was the type of music I just did not get. I'm talking as a little kid on the Ed Sullivan Show. I used to see James Brown all the time. But my dad always changed the channel. I don't want to watch this guy. But then as I got older and got more sophisticated, then I started to be a big James Brown fan. James Brown, actually, one of the most famous things he did was when he had to go to jail for that race he was on Angel Dust in Georgia, where he's from. And the police were chasing him. He drove for miles before they caught him on the bare tires, the rims of his tires. And, of course, he went to jail, I think, he was sentenced to 4 years, but he stayed for 2 years. They always give you time off for good behavior. But then that was about that time they played a lot of James Brown on the radio and stuff, because he's sort of like a comeback of sorts. He had a song, and then I think when he got out of jail, he had his last hit, I guess, was "Living in America." And he's in the Rocky movies, and then he had a pretty good career next, probably, I don't know, 10 years after that.
Yeah.
He died right before New Year's Day.
Yeah.
Like maybe a couple of days before New Year's Day one year, and he was actually slated to play in New York on New Year's Eve, and he couldn't make it because he was dead. And he was sick before then, but he said, I'll make it, and he died before then. Now he was one of those guys, I could just imagine him, he's sort of like me, that never gets sick, but then he gets sick, and he doesn't believe he's sick, so he just keeps pushing on. He probably, I never got to see him because I kept, he would come to town. He was always on tour, and I would always hear about it after he left.
Yeah.
But he was one of the few people that usually I catch up with these guys sooner or later, but I never caught up with James Brown. James Brown, but now if you see like any clips of him on the Ed Sullivan Show or the Flip Wilson Show or any of these shows, remarkable talent and everything. We didn't really listen to rock and roll when I was a little kid. My parents were squares. They're real squares.
Yeah.
So I remember there was an episode of the Jackie Gleason Show. We did watch, and there was this guy, Timmy Rogers. He was a black comedian, and he was trying to teach Jackie Gleason how to be cool and and to do swinging moves and dances and songs and everything. And Jackie Gleason would do with those dances he always did, and he's very good at them. They always bring a smile to my face when I see him dancing, Jackie Gleason, and Timmy Rogers, the black comedian. He was famous for having a catchphrase. He goes, "Oh yeah, oh yeah." Every time you ask him a question, is that true? Oh yeah. So they said he says. So he says, and then when he said, "Do you think I could make it as a soul brother?" He says, "Oh no." And I'd never heard of Aretha Franklin, but I kind of knew that she was a popular soul singer in those days. I'm a little kid at the time. I'm only like 5, but at the first time I ever heard a reference to Aretha Franklin was on this show, and so he says, "Oh no," and he says, and Gleason gets mad at Timmy Rogers, and he says, "You don't think I could be cool and soulful like Aretha Franklin?" And he says, "You can't be cool or soulful as Benjamin Franklin." So whenever I hear about Aretha Franklin, I always remember that joke. By the way, Aretha Franklin, I think we talked about it once before on the show, and one thing I did not realize when I was a kid, she brought the world this term "sock-a-to-me." It's in the song "Respect." Sock-a-to-me. When I was a kid, I thought "sock-a-to-me" was one long word, but it's actually, I saw it written down. Oh, sock it to me, and then of course the song which came out before "Laughin'," "Respect," which is the last part, was "sock-a-to-me, sock-a-to-me, sock-a-to-me."
Oh,
This is kind of a strange phrase there.
Yeah.
I've been listening to a lot of.
Bette Midler.
You've been reading my notes, Bette Midler.
Yes.
And Bette Midler, you know what's really good about Bette Midler? She sings a lot of old songs, and many times to young people, that's the first time they'll ever hear these old songs. I think the first time I've ever heard "In the Mood," the famous song by the Glenn Miller Band. Da 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 da. She sang this really cool version of "In the Mood," and she sang all these songs, Blue Champagne, all these wonderful songs she would sing. "You Don't Know Me" on her early albums. Tell me about the album you have.
I had The Divine Miss M.
Do you remember the songs on there?
Friends.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's I think an original song for her. Yeah, but she's always good.
Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy.
Okay, Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy. I'm glad you mentioned that because Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy, I thought when I first heard it, it was a group of girl singers, like originally by the Andrews Sisters.
Yeah.
But it was one of the few times, and it was quite innovative at the time. She recorded 3 different tracks, different and she harmonized with herself, and they blended it all together. It sounded like 3 people singing. She did that a few more times in her career, and but that Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy was so good. I saw her in Madison Square Garden. I got the cheap seats, and I'd never seen Bette Midler, and she was great. She's funny, and she was in a movie called The Rose, and where she plays like a Janis Joplin type. And that's very good. But then she didn't make movies for a while after such a big debut. And then she started making movies all the time. For like about 10 years, she was on almost every romantic comedy and everything. And she's so good, Bette Midler. And Johnny Carson, she was the last guest on the last Johnny Carson show. And he said she was on maybe a week before then, before he picked her as his last guest on the last show. And he said, "You are the greatest guest we've ever had on the Johnny Carson show," and she probably was. Bette Midler is. We're waiting for some guy to back into this place. There's no one behind them. You can't turn off that. So anyway, I drive forward. Life goes in one direction. Forward. Anyway, so Bette Midler was she. I don't think she made any bad movies. She made one movie that was a tiring film called Jinxed, and you probably never heard of it, but it was Don Siegel's last film. Who made a lot of good movies like The Shootist, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and Dirty Harry. A lot of Clint Eastwood movies, a few John Wayne films. I think Ronald Reagan's last film, The Killers, and evidently her and the other guy who was in it, Ken Wall, gave him so much trouble he announced his retirement after that movie. He never made another film. But Ken Wall you never saw again after Wise Guy. But Bette Midler's still going strong. I saw her, like I said, at in New York at Madison Square Garden. Me and 20,000 others. She doesn't do a whole lot of concerts. I think in Las Vegas you might find her. A residency I think she might have there. But she's. What was wild about the show I saw, she sang all her hits, and she sang a lot of songs, old songs. She sings them very well. And the last song she sang, her encore, was Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy. Because she said, this is the song that started my career. Even though she'd been around for a few years before that, performing. I think we mentioned when we were talking about Barry Manilow. Barry Manilow was her head of her band, or piano player. And he used to play with her in the bathhouses in New York when she was getting a footing in New York in the 1960s, I guess. Well, no one ever heard of her at that point. Yeah. She's from Hawaii, like I said. If you check out the movie Hawaii, you'll actually see her as an extra, as a teenage girl or something, and wearing a hula skirt or something, a sarong or something. But Bette Midler is so good, so check out anything with Bette Midler, the BEEGEES, James Brown, and Billy Joel. All the B's.
Yes.
Everyone. And next week we'll do the C's. Well, so I guess you got to do your show tonight, huh?
Yes.
So I guess without a moment to lose. Thank you for having me on my birthday on your show.
Yes. May God bless everyone, and you all take care. Thank you all for tuning in. God bless.